Hi everyone, this is Michelle again. Here we are at the wet market. Today we are actually going to do our grocery shopping here at the wet market. Many people actually think that the wet market is actually a very scary experience and it smells bad and they don't really know what to do because they're intimidated. I think let's just go in. I'll show you that it's actually not that scary after all. Let's go. So generally when I come to a wet market, or rather the first time at a wet market, what I tend to do or like to do is to give the wet market like a whole tour first. Walk around the whole entire place, see what there is, what stalls catches my eye. It's almost like you go to a food court, right? And you want to see what food there is and then what you feel like eating and then go for it from there. And that's what I'm going to do. So for today's basket, we're just going to get a few ingredients. Broccoli, shiitake mushrooms and chicken. So when you're looking at a broccoli, what you want to do is to get the very, very green ones, okay? Try not to have too much yellow in there, okay? And because, you know, it's a small family, it's just the two of us, so we're just gonna get a small one, okay? You don't have to get something that's too big. And the other thing that I love buying from the wet market is that if you see, they're all individual, so you don't actually have to buy a whole entire pack, right? You can actually buy the quantity that you feel that you need and you don't have to overbuy. So the ones that I actually try to pick are the ones that are drier and firmer, right? The ones that you see here, these ones seem to be more moist and they can go bad faster, right? So you just need to just press them lightly. Don't press too hard, the stall holders won't be happy. I actually love to buy my pork from the wet market because at the wet market, they actually give you tips on how you should cook this particular cut of pork or which cut of pork is the best for that particular dish. For example, the other day I went and I said, "Uncle, I want to make char siu. Can you recommend?" He gave me the pork cut, which was perfect, and he actually even cut it to the way that it's supposed to be cooked. Or if you go for a mince, they can say that, "Oh, I want it double minced so that it's actually more pasty, you know, and it's better in terms of texture, something that you can't get at the supermarket." 有没有那个鸡腿没有骨的 So what I did here was that I wanted chicken thigh with no bones. So she already had some that is ready made, but already cut. But I wanted the ones that are bigger, so she said that okay, she's going to, you know, remove the bones for me. Now the great thing is that I told her, I said, can I keep the bones because I can use it for stock later as well. So win-win. And what you notice in the wet market is also that you have many different types of whole chicken, right? At the supermarket, you tend to just get one particular brand or chicken from one type. But at the wet market, you can actually get chicken, like small, medium, large, or even like kampong chicken, black chicken of different sizes. And the great thing about the wet market is that if you're all smiles and friendly, you always get free stuff. I just got some free bones. 谢谢. Thank you. Bye-bye. We got what we want from the wet market. Look, it wasn't that bad after all, right? Let's go back to my place and then we'll get cooking. I got this from the wet market. We got the broccoli, we got boneless chicken thigh, and we have fresh shiitake mushrooms here. So all in all here, this cost me a total of $15. It can actually sufficiently feed 2 people for 3 meals. I would say 2.5 because one is a snack. All right. A lot of people think that when you buy the same ingredients, you meal prep and you need to eat the same thing over and over again. But what I actually want to show you is that you don't have to. With the same 3 ingredients, you can actually make 3 different meals. So the first one I'm going to do would be an Asian zi char at home. The second one is a Western grill, and the third one is a midnight supper. So let's get in the kitchen. So this one, right, generally when you get it from the market, it's already deboned. But you will always notice that in the middle here, they always somehow leave a little bit of the bone. So we're going to take it out because this dish is actually going to be like a simplified version of a clay pot rice, but done in a rice cooker. So you don't want any bones inside. So just make sure that you remove all the nitty-bitty bits of bones inside. Use your finger to go through everything and make sure. Okay. So then after that, I'm going to actually cut it into smaller bite-sized pieces. So I've got soy sauce here, Shaoxing wine, pepper. I'm actually putting a little bit more seasoning than I would normally if I'm just stir frying this, because it's going to go on top of the rice. So if you have extra seasoning, it can actually seep into the rice, and that's fine, right? A little bit of sugar. And just leave it to marinate. Minimum time to marinate would be about 30 minutes, right? What we're going to do now, right, take note would be that I'm going to get the rice to cook, but when it's half cooked, which means that when the water is boiling, I'm going to add the chicken in. I actually added less water than I normally would because there is actually the seasoning which actually contributes to the liquid as well, okay? A broccoli is like a big tree, right? So what you want to do is to cut the small trees from the big trees, right? And depending on how big each is, normally when you cut it off like this, right, it's still too big for you to cook it properly. So what I'll do is just to cut it straight right in the center, right? And then you get it. And if it's still too big, then just go quarters. Very simple. You can actually keep this and make stock or make a soup out of it, right? Blend it. For mushrooms, what you want to do is to always take off this stem. The stem is the part that you don't really want to eat it because it gets very tough. And there's one thing about fresh mushrooms, right? You don't actually want to wash them until the point where just before you cook it. Because what happens when you wash mushrooms too early, they soak up all the water, it shrivels, and it just doesn't cook very well after that. So we're going to slice this one up. So what we're going to do here is cornstarch slurry. So usually it's an equal part of cornstarch with water, and you mix it up. So what this does is that it helps to thicken up our sauce later, right? So it has this consistency that would actually hold on to whatever you are cooking, right? So when you see the bubbling, when you see the rice bubbling, that's when you add your chicken in. Put it along like a thin layer on top of the rice so that it'll cook evenly. You actually need to wait for the water to come to a rolling boil, because that's when the water is at the highest temperature, the 100. Because once you put in your whatever food that you want to cook, right, it actually drops the temperature. So if it doesn't hit the maximum when you put in, it drops even lower. It takes a longer time for it to cook, and your food, whatever ingredient, is just absorbing water for nothing. When you're cooking mushrooms, right, try not to stir them too much, because what happens when you stir them too much, they actually release a lot of water, and what happens is that instead of frying your mushrooms, you end up boiling them. So usually I would say go by feel, but if let's say you're not sure, what you can do is to get a small knife, right, or a fork, and you just poke it at the stem. If your knife or your fork goes through very easily, you know that your broccoli is ready. Just let the mushrooms simmer for a little bit. We want a little bit more sauce because if you notice, I actually did not season my broccoli. I did season the water, right? But I want more sauce so that we can drizzle over the broccoli as a sort of seasoning. Something very important about cooking, please taste your food. When you're happy with the seasoning, right, that's when you actually put in your cornstarch slurry, just to thicken it up a little bit. And done. Off with the top, off with the tail, right? And try to cut off this part where it actually keeps it all together because I want a good slice, right? But if you are chopping it up, then it's a completely different story already. And what you want to do is to start on an angle here, right? If you start on an angle, you will get all your slices equal. But if you start here, you're going to end up with a chunk rather than a slice. And if you realize that you get to this part and your finger doesn't actually have a lot of hole anymore, right? Flip it on the side and then start exactly the same way as you would. And with the garlic, sometimes people find that it's very, very cumbersome to actually peel a garlic. So what I usually do, I just smash it slightly, right? So the skin actually just comes away from the garlic very easily, and it's easier for you to peel rather than when it's whole. So we're doing Western today for this particular dish. So I'm actually going to leave this little bone here on the chicken thigh, just because it actually looks a little bit better for presentation. Okay. By cooking in the same pan, there is an advantage because the chicken fat actually goes into the onions and it absorbs that. And the same thing, the onion flavors, the sweetness from the onions actually gets into the chicken as well. I flip it when I actually see that there is a nice golden brown color on the skin side. And when you actually know when a chicken is completely done is when you press into the chicken later and you see the juices come out and it's clear, there is no blood. That's when you know a chicken is done. It usually takes about 15 minutes for it to be completely cooked. If it's bone on, it would take slightly longer. Once it's cooked, I'm going to remove all the water and I'm going to throw in a lot of butter, salt and pepper and season it. So whenever we cook with butter, tend to like to put a little bit of oil because butter has got a very low burning point, so it burns very easily. Even before you actually manage to cook your food, it would be burned. So add a little bit of oil just to neutralize that, okay? This one I'm actually going to cut it into small dices, right? Removing the bones again, so that we won't actually get bones in our instant noodles. And very small dices because the rest of the vegetables, the mushrooms and the broccoli, I've cut them into very small dice so we can actually do a quick stir fry. Not forgetting that this is actually a midnight snack, so we don't want to take more than 10 minutes to cook this. But I'm going to do it half cook because we're going to put it into the sauce again later, so we want to not overcook it at this point. I'm using just one pot to cook everything because assuming that this is a midnight snack, we don't want to wash up too many things, so we just keep it very, very simple. So what I added in just now was the Shaoxing wine, cooking wine, soy sauce, sesame oil and white pepper. Things that we have actually put together in our basic pantry. I'm just going to let it simmer for 5 minutes. The difference between this one and the previous one where we cooked the whole chicken thigh for 15 minutes because this is in smaller pieces, so they cook a lot faster, right? And we're going to put the mushrooms in at the end because they cook really, really quick. How you don't overcook mushrooms is watching the timing, and also by using your tongs or your spatula or chopsticks, even for that matter of fact, to actually just squeeze it. Like instead of your fingers, you actually squeeze it. So when you actually grab it, you can actually still feel the bounce from the mushroom. An overcooked mushroom, it's completely mushy, right? So it completely just breaks apart actually. Right now I'm actually removing all the ingredients because they are actually cooked already, they're done. But what I want to do is to leave the sauce inside to thicken up a little bit, and I'll put noodles back into the sauce. We'll toss it around, let the noodles cook fully, but at the same time so it can absorb some of the taste and the flavors from the sauce as well. The amount of sauce you can actually adjust up to your liking. You can actually add more water if you want, if you like more sauce. But always remember, if the more water or the more liquid that you add, the more seasoning that you need to adjust with as well. If not, everything's going to turn out very bland. So here we have it. 3 simple ingredients, 3 different cooking methods, and 3 very different styles. So all you need to do is just to tweak your ingredients a little bit, change the cooking method just slightly, and you can have 3 meals of very different tastes and different satisfaction level. What this helps us with is with budgeting and our meal planning. All you need to do to go to the market, you see what you like, bring it back, and plan out the different types of meals that you can actually create for yourself. It can be that simple and it can be really fun. I hope you carry on your cooking journey. If you need more ideas and inspiration, check out my Instagram at tinkerfun. Do share with me your creations as well. See you.